Welcome to today's class. We're going to go ahead and start drafting a corset now. But before we do that, we need to draft the basic foundation block that we're going to be deriving our corset from. Now, why is this important? You need to be able to have a foundation and then manipulate that foundation to create your corset. That's the best way that I know that gives me a great fitting corset. And I'm using my mannequin as a guideline. These are the measurements. I'm going to start drafting. I have my ruler, straight, the curve one for the armhole and the curve one for the hip. I have my scissors, my fabric and paper scissors. I have a marker. You can use a pencil for yours. But when you are submitting your assignment, please use a marker to outline it so that I can see it clearly. You also need a tape rule, and you can make use of a long ruler. I have one close by. That I can use if I need to. So these are the measurements, and you need your chest measurements, your bust, your waist, your under bust, your abdomen, your hip, your shoulder to chest, shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, your chest width, your back width, your shoulder back, your neck, your armhole, your waist to hip, your nape to waist, and your corset length. So this corset length is, you can tell the person to sit down and then you measure from their shoulder down to wherever they are, or even while standing. It's better to measure it while sitting down so that you can know the exact spot that it should where it should stop, especially at the sides. It's very important so that it's not digging into their thighs and making it uncomfortable for them. So I'm going to start with a straight line, and this will represent my center back. I'm going to draw a corresponding straight line at the top. Now you have to make sure that this line is at an exact 90-degree angle so you don't make mistakes. So I'm going to use my ruler. So there are gradients on it, and I'll just align one of the gradients to that to give me a straight line. So this is going to be your top line. So to draft our basic block, there is a form of measurements that I use when I'm drafting from the top line. So based on the size, I'm going to put it in the description. Based on the size you're working with, you're going to come down or you're going to start at exactly your top line. So because of the bust size that I'm working with, I'm going to start at the top line. So starting here, that means that this is going to be where the back and the front is going to start from. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark my nape. So 2 centimeters standard measurements from the top. In a straight line, this is going to be your nape. And this is going to be your nape. Then from that nape, you're going to measure 3 centimeters, which is a standard measurement as well. So this is going to be your shoulder. So this is 2 and this is 3. So 2 centimeters from the top line, then 3 centimeters from the nape. So these are standard figures to get the nape. To get your armhole line, you are going to divide your armhole by 2, and you would measure from the nape downwards. So I have 2 here. Now this line goes all the way to the front. So for me to get that, I'm just going to place my tape back at the top and measure what I have. So remember, this is 2, and from here to here was 24, this particular figure. So it means from the top here to here is 22. The reason for doing that is so that I can measure it on the other side. My nape, I'm going to find half of this nape to armhole. So from here to here is 20 for this. So half of that will give me 10. Then mark 10. And this is going to be your back. So the next thing is to mark my nape to waist. So from the nape, I'm going to measure my nape to waist. For this figure is 43. And you do the same thing so that we can get the straight line. You place your tip on top line to this part. So here I'm going to have 45. Okay, hope you're following. And from the waistline, I'm going to measure my waist to hip. Waist to hip is 23. So measure from the waist. So now that I've drafted all this, the next thing for me to do is to find the center front. You can do that before you start, but I like to draw this before I do that. So to get it, you're going to take your bust measurement and you're going to add 10 centimeters. Or you take your bust, divide it by 2 and add 5 centimeters. It will give you the same figure. So when the first formula I said, add 10, we are going to divide it by 2. So if I have 105.5, divided by 2 will give me 52.75. Now if I do the second way, which is 95 divided by 2, 95.5 divided by 2 plus 2 will give me plus 5 will give me 52.75. So remember I said you're going to give you the same value. So you're either adding 10 centimeters to your bust, dividing by 2, or you divide your bust by 2 and add 5 centimeters. So I have 52.75. Now that's for the bust. Now you need to also cross-check your hip. So your hip divided by 2 plus 3, or your hip plus 6 divided by 2. So I'm going to do the 2 for you to see. $54.5. Then so you're going to use the larger measurement out of the two. So mine is 54.5. So I have my center back and my center front now. It's time to start placing my measurements. If you have to come down a little bit on your measurements. For example, if you're working with a measurement that requires you to come down before you can start, that measurement you come down by is going to be your neck. Then you measure 2 centimeters to get your nape, then 3 again. So I hope that makes sense. But for this figure, the top line for front and back are the same. So neck divided by 5, that's 38. That's 7.6. That's 7.6. Then your shoulder back measurement is 19.5. So you're going to place your tape roll on the nape to get 7.6, and you're going to bend it to get 19.5. That's 39 divided by 19.5. That's shoulder back. So you mark this. Now I'm not going to draw the line yet because this can be adjusted. So what I did was, remember I placed my tape at nape and then I've slanted it down to get my shoulder back measurement. Then my back width measurement, you're going to divide it by 2. So that's going to give me 18. 36 divided by 2. Now this one, you measure the same figure on the armhole line. and draw a straight line upwards. So the reason why I do this before I draw the line is because this mark has to be outwards of this line. It shouldn't be inwards. So at this point, if you want to add a shoulder dart, you would add it to this measurement. So for example, I can add a 1 centimeter shoulder dart and elongate it. So if I'm adding 1 centimeter, I'll measure it here and I will draw. And I'll just draw and I'll make sure I mark half of that line to get my shoulder, my dart line. But I'm not going to do that for this class. I just work with this. So that's my shoulder line. Okay, so this point is your NP, this point is your SP, neck point, shoulder point. Very simple. So on your armhole line, based on the size that you're working with, the bust size, they're going to come out. So for me, this is 5.5. So this is UP, which means on the arm point. Okay, so at the hip level, you are going to find half. So if you're working with a wider, the hip measurement being the biggest measurement, you divide this into 2. Now if you're working with the bust, you have to divide whatever figure you used for your hip. So that's hip divided by 3, and hip divided by 2 plus 3. You divide that into 2 and you measure from here to stop here, from here to stop here. That's if your bust is the biggest measurement after calculation. So since mine is not, I'm just going to divide this into 2, and I have 27.3. And this is going to be my HP, which means hip point. And this is what we have for the back.